Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome back to another evening with Blockchain Braun. It's good to have you here this evening. As you come into the video, if you would please smash up the like buttons, subscribe, and share it with a friend if you choose to do so. All right, we're going to hop right into it. We're not going to waste any time tonight. But tonight, I wanted to talk about something. I wanted to talk about three basic things tonight. I try to center things around the economy, but my name is Blockchain Braun, so we're going to get into some blockchain things tonight too as well. But we're going to talk about the economy too. First off, I would like to say I really thank God that Tampa wasn't hit hard by Hurricane Milton. I know we still have some people that are struggling from the results of Hurricane Helene here in North Carolina, and I still pray for those people and contribute. So, guys, on the last video I actually had a space where you can go out and contribute, and you could do some philanthropic giving to Hurricane Helene or the victims of Hurricane Helene. And I had two particular links there. So if you go back to my previous video that I did, I think this was maybe a week ago, then you can actually find that link. Or you could probably do a search on Google and find links to as well. Now, though Tampa wasn't hit as hard as they thought it would be hit, or the Bay Area in general, it still was hit, in some places. And, my Tampa Bay Rays, Tropicana Field, if you've seen the dome, pretty much the whole roof was ripped off of the Trop. So I wasn't happy to see that. But all in all, things could have been a whole lot worse. And so I thank God that Tampa was spared. The other parts that were hit in Florida, some places, I believe in Clearwater and maybe St. Pete, and some of those counties down there. I don't think Sarasota was hit as hard, but I think there were some places in Sarasota that were hit. So I pray that all of the people in Florida, they get all the help they need. I pray that they will stay safe. And I thank God that they were not hit as hard as they could have been hit. So thank goodness. So as I've said that, so we'll get on into the other aspects of what I want to talk about tonight. So tonight I wanted to talk about war. I wanted to talk about war. Also, as well, I wanted to talk about Brics to blockchain. And I also want to talk about inflation. So we're going to start out with war. The reason I wanted to discuss war tonight is because I thought about something, and I addressed it, I believe, last video. So with the wars that are going on right now, I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but the United States of America are involved in three proxy wars. So from a proxy standpoint, what I mean by that is indirectly the U.S. is involved. They're involved somehow. It might be some financial support. There might be some weaponry support or other types of ways that they support or are involved in these three wars. And so I just wanted to go over the aspects of those and how they maybe fizzle into things economically and how that works. I'm not talking about the cost of war. I'm not talking about what General Major Smedley wrote in the 1930s. He put out a pamphlet called War is a Racket. And so in War is a Racket, he talks about the profit of war. And so we're not going to get into the aspects of that. But Major General Smedley, I believe is his name, he wrote a book or a pamphlet called War is a Racket. And so with that book, he talks about the profitability of war. We're not going to get into that tonight, but I want to talk about other aspects economically. And so we're going to talk about that to begin with. One thing I thought about was the China-Russia connection, but also I want to talk about Russia-Ukraine. I thought back to May of 2014 when Russia invaded Ukraine for the first time. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but Russia invaded the Ukraine after they signed a $400 billion natural gas deal with China. So they signed a $400 billion natural gas deal. And then after they signed this deal, they invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea. So that was the first time. That was the first part of the deal. And I said, interesting. In my mind, I thought this is something that we're going to have to watch and keep our eye on going down the road. Because one thing I know, and I've said this before, money and resources bring wealth. Wealth leads to power. And most of the time, there is conflict and war involved. Keep that in mind. So I'm saying, this is interesting. It's a pretty big deal. $390 to $400 billion deal. I say, I wonder where this is going to lead to down the road. Then come, I believe it was February, and then maybe it was later on in the year of 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine again. And then they signed the second part of the 30-year deal, $390 to $400 billion once again. So they invaded Ukraine for a second time. And so I started thinking, I was like, well, Ukraine is rich in minerals. They're rich in natural gas. They're rich in metal. They have oil. They have agriculture, wheat, grain, barley. Then also, I believe there may be some aspects of uranium there. And the reason I say that is because, in case you guys did not know, I believe Ukraine was part of the old USSR regime. And so in them being a part of this, they actually made nuclear weapons for Russia. This was like the main hub. If you did not know, if you've ever heard of Chernobyl, Chernobyl is located in the Ukraine. So when it had the big accident and things of that nature, and you hear about that in history, well, understand that Chernobyl is located in the Ukraine. Ukraine is rich in resources. Now, what did I say? Money and resources lead to wealth. Wealth leads to power. And most of the time, there's conflict or war involved. And so I don't think, in my opinion, that it's coincidental that after they signed this natural gas deal, Russia invaded Ukraine. That's the first war I want to look at. Second war I want to look at, of course, would be the Israel-Palestine war. And of course, as you know, Lebanon has gotten involved now. So Israel-Palestine, you know that the Hamas did an attack on a dance music festival on October the 7th of 2023, where there were many killed, many innocent people killed, and it was an attack on Israel. And so after this, there's been a lot of carnage. Israel has attacked. A lot more innocent people have gotten killed, unfortunately. And then now, as this war has continued, and in case you guys know, it's been over a year now that this war has gone on, Hezbollah got involved, and then that led to Lebanon getting involved. And now there's a heightened sense of danger because of Lebanon's involvement in the war. And it's something that we're going to have to keep our eye on from an international standpoint. Now, this is what's interesting about this situation. Now, I know you say, well, they war in the Middle East all the time. This is not the first time that things of this nature have happened. Well, that is true. But what's interesting about this is that myself, I don't think it's coincidental that Lebanon became a full member of the Brics economic system on January the 1st of 2024, this year. So Brics had their original members, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But then they added on Ethiopia, the United Arab Emirates. They added on Saudi Arabia. And they added Lebanon. So Lebanon was added in January. Money and resources lead to wealth. Wealth leads to power. And most of the time, there's war or conflict involved. So I don't think that's coincidental either, in my opinion. So then, of course, that leads me to the United States. Now, we're not at war. However, we are involved in 3 proxy wars. Now, that word proxy, from the standpoint of proxy, that just means that we are involved in these wars indirectly. We are sending money to the Ukraine for their conflict with Russia. We're sending money to Israel for their conflict with Palestine and Lebanon now. And we're also sending our military support and maybe even financial support. I don't know so much as financial. Well, we're sending our military support over to the China Sea, which we have been doing for a while. Because as you know, we do protect Taiwan. And I've said in many videos before, many times before, that China has future aspirations of invading Taiwan and unifying it with China. But we are sending troops over to the China Sea. And I think we just sent more over there. And guys, just in case you know, as far as Taiwan and the China Sea, as far as Taiwan, as far as distance from China, it's very, very close. So Taiwan is about, I want to say, 81 miles from China. Now, to bring that to maybe some realization of maybe just to give you an idea of where that's located in reference to anything that's near us, kind of like the same distance. Cuba is only 91 miles from the coast of Florida. Taiwan is closer to China than Cuba is to the United States of America. Now, that's very close. If you pull that up on a map, you'll see how close that is. So I don't know about you, but I could perceive that being some type of threat to China by the United States continually sending troops out to the China Sea, and it's right outside of China. That could be why China and Russia continue to agitate us, which is why we sent extra troops to Alaska too as well. So we've sent troops to Alaska, we've sent troops to the Middle East, and we've sent more troops over to the China Sea. That's been within the past month or month and a half. Now, I don't know if you know or not, but we've had several close calls with what they call routine exercises that Russia and China have been performing together. A lot of these have taken place near our troops and military and bases and things up in Alaska. And I don't think they're doing this mistakenly. I believe they're doing this for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but we obviously took it seriously here in the United States. That's why we sent extra troops up there, because we didn't take it as being something that was not to be taken seriously. So we are involved in 3 proxy wars, guys. 3 proxy wars. And a lot of these, we continue to send money and fund with money. And I think we need to watch that as a nation, because we have a lot to take care of here at home. A lot of things that we need to deal with here at home that requires our attention, especially financially. So this is something to think about. So that war makes me think. And I don't think that that's happening just to be happening. I think there is a reason behind it. You got to realize these 3 particular wars have something in common. Each one of these wars that I just talked about have Brics members involved. Russia, whether it be Russia, whether it be China, whether it be Iran. There are other conflicts going on in Africa right now, which there are several African nations that are either a part of the Brics or they're looking to come on. The summit meeting is October the 22nd through the 24th, and I believe it's going to be in Russia. And at this summit meeting, from what I understand, the Brics is going to be adding 47 new members. And in the future, there are already 159 additional countries that are signed on to be a part of the BRICS system, which, as I said before, the BRICS system is like SWIFT. Money and resources lead to power, or money and resources lead to wealth. Wealth leads to power. And most of the time, there's conflict and war involved. So as we get to the BRICS system, BRICS is, I don't know how much of a threat it's going to be to the United States. I have no idea. It may be no threat at all. I just read an article today in Forbes magazine where, again, and I've seen this many times before over the years, the United States at some point in time is looking to go totally digital. I believe at some point we're going to be totally cashless. I believe it's been coming. I believe it's going to be part of the world order. And that's where everything is leading to. This is going to be a totally cashless world. Because if you look at it now, we don't need it. We don't need fiat money to function. We really don't. And so they have gotten us accustomed to doing things from a digital standpoint anyway. And so I believe that we're going to move more into a cashless society. Now, with the BRICS system, they're going to be on the blockchain. And I believe blockchain technology is kind of like a precursor to things to come. Blockchain technology is distributed ledger technology. It's decentralized. It's not run by a central authority. And I believe that's one reason the BRICS is going to operate on the blockchain, to be decentralized, to add all of those different countries as far as being a part of it. On the blockchain, you can operate 24 hours, 7 days a week. I believe it's going to interact with real-time payments, or RTPs. I believe it's going to be a part of that too as well. Blockchain is supposed to be immutable. All the data on one block, signed off on a block, is supposed to compete or supposed to actually be a guard against the double spending problem as far as accounting is concerned and keeping up with records. So I believe that's one reason that they're going to use blockchain technology to support the BRICS system, is because of all those reasons I just mentioned. And another main reason I believe they're going to use the blockchain is because on the blockchain, you don't have to have an intermediary or middleman. If you don't know, if you're sending wires from the United States to overseas, if you're sending them cross-border, if you're sending wires cross-border, most of the time you need an intermediary bank in order to make that transaction go through. Most of the time, you're not going to get a wire to go cross-border unless you have an intermediary bank. So that's the middleman that I'm talking about. Well, with the blockchain, you don't need that. You cut out the middleman altogether. And so there are a lot of different ways as far as pros in using the blockchain. There are some cons. You have to have some security measures in place. You have to have all the parties there to agree that whatever is being done on the blockchain, they agree with. You have all these different countries that are involved, and that's going to be a part of one monetary system. These particular systems or particular governments, particular nations have to be in agreement to what they're doing. This could cause problems because, what if China doesn't agree with what Russia is doing? Or what if Russia doesn't agree with what India is doing? Or what if India doesn't agree with what Brazil is doing? So on and so forth. There has to be some general census or consensus agreement to what's being done. And so that could cause some issues there if they're not in agreement with what's happening or what's being done on the blockchain. But blockchain technology, I believe, is the future. If you don't know what blockchain technology is, it's what Bitcoin is built on. It's what most of your cryptocurrencies is built on. And I know to most people, cryptocurrency is a bad word. But guys, in my opinion, it's an incubator for things to come. It's a way to test things to come. When you're looking at stocks, when it used to be T plus 2, T plus 1, or stocks are going to be T plus 0 in the future. When you're looking at how long it used to take payments to transact, or how long it used to take to transfer money, it's going to be RTP. It's going to be like that. You're not going to have to wait days. You're not going to have to wait weeks for things to transfer. It's going to be when you put forth that transaction, or when you interact with whatever platform you're using, it's going to be like lightning. It's going to go through so fast, it's going to blow your mind. This is what's being done. Not just Brics is looking to do that. We're looking to implement something like that in the United States too, as well. Also, Europe is looking to do something. I told you this has been a few videos before that Christine Lagarde, who is the president and head of the Central Bank of Europe, said that within 5 years or less, she believes that Europe could be totally digital. And that coming from Christine Lagarde, which is one of the most powerful women. And I always say, in my opinion, I think she's the most powerful woman in the world. There are maybe two ahead of her, or a lot of times she falls between second and third. And there's another woman, I forget her name, that's normally ahead of her. But sometimes I've seen some places put her in first. But she's a very powerful woman, very knowledgeable, has been a part of this financial system as far as at the top tier for decades. So she believes that the euro is going to be totally digital within 5 years or less. That's something to say. And I believe that the United States here real soon is going to follow suit. And I believe we're going to be totally digital. I don't know how long that's going to be from now, but that's where we're headed. So, and I believe blockchain is a precursor to that. I can see some of the things that we do as far as a totally digital monetary system. I could see us doing that on the blockchain too as well. The only thing is, with the United States, we regulate a lot. We regulate more than a whole lot of more other countries or other nations. And so as long as they can regulate it, then I believe they'll implement it. But the thing about it is blockchain is built to be decentralized. And so in order to have a digitized dollar, I believe you have to have a central bank digital currency. So you have to have a CBDC. And so I don't know how that would function, because the whole aspect of blockchain is to be decentralized, is to allow you and me to custody our own assets. So we'll have to see how that works in the future, but I believe that's where we're going. Just something to think about. Lastly, I want to talk about inflation. Out of all the different aspects of anything that's going on economically, inflation is what worries me the most. Our inflation here in the United States has been not good within the past 4 years. If you look where we've come from since we stopped the gold standard in 1971 up to where we are now, to me, it's been a constant devaluing of our dollar. Our dollar has not been the same since we stopped the gold standard in 1971. We just don't realize it. But as years and years and years and years and years go on, we continue to lose the value of our dollar. and it continues to decrease. Think about this, guys. Think about our parents coming up and how much money they made in relation to how much we're making right now. Do you remember how far they were able to stretch their money? It seems like they made a whole lot less than we made, but it seems like they were able to do a whole lot more than we're able to do, though we have more money. That's inflation. That's a devaluing of your money. That's you losing purchasing power of your money, and it's not having the same purchasing power that it did 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So this is what worries me the most. The biggest thing about inflation is the way that you're going to stop that or slow it down. You can have all these different things that you throw at it, but basic things that you can do is stop the constant printing of money. The basic things you can do is stop all the government spending. Well, what government spending are you talking about? Well, when you send in $100 billion here to fund this war, or $100 billion there to fund this war, or $100 billion there to fund this war, or we're going to give the people certain credits, or we want to help the American people out, so we're going to government spend in order to do this particular program. And some of these programs are necessary and they're good for us, but it's the balance sheet, stupid. And, and I'm not calling you guys stupid, but that's an actual saying. It's just, it's basic. It's assets and liabilities. It's the balance sheet. It's like, well, don't we have anyone that can budget? We've got to have someone that can budget. And so we have to be careful with where we're putting our money at and how much we're putting there. And can we afford to put it in these places? I believe we have to get to the point to where we take care of home first, as far as things here in America, before we reach out to other places. Now, I know we have to be ambassadors to other places and do stuff to other places. And I get it. I understand. God has blessed us with a lot here in this country. And it's important for us to be a part of what's going on internationally. So I get it. Our foreign relations is very important. But at the same time, we have to be careful not to spread ourselves too thin right now, because inflation is a problem. Our dollar, I don't care what anyone tells you, does not have the same power it used to have. Our dollar does not have the same purchasing power it used to have. You can't do what you used to be able to do. You look at inflation right now, I believe we're at 2.4%. We run, again, like a well-oiled machine when inflation is at 2% or under. Now, 2.4, 2.5, though they're talking about maybe moving the number up in order to keep up with things nowadays, which is, I don't think would be a good thing. But hey, all the experts work with the big dogs. So I don't know. Hopefully they know what they're doing. And I'm guessing they do. But 2% or under is our goal. We're at 2.4%, and that's not core inflation. So core inflation does not include food and energy, I believe. Core inflation would include like airfare, car insurance, apparel. So if you look at the core inflation numbers, that's at 3.3% as far as inflation is concerned. That's too high. We have got to get that number under control. Got to get these inflation numbers under control. To add more to it, the consumer price has increased since 2020 up to the current time. The consumer price has increased by 21.4%. So what that means to you is at 21.4% increase since 2000, what cost you $1,000 in 2000, or excuse me, not 2000, but 2020, will cost you $1,214 now. That is a huge jump. That is a big consumer price increase. Now, to put that in perspective, that is the biggest 4-year increase in history. We've never seen these type of numbers before as far as consumer price increase. To put this in perspective, let's take a 10-year range. So let's do this. We'll go to 2010s, we'll go to 2000s, and we'll go 1990. So in the 2010s, we'll start there. So when I say the 2010s, that's 2010 up through 2020. The consumer price increased by 18.9%. So 18.9%, that's pretty good. But the thing about it, that took 10 years. Bear in mind, the number I gave you, that took 4 years, the 21.4%, that's a 4-year span. That 18.9 is almost the same. So what it took 10 years as far as the consumer price increase at 18.9, it only took 4 at 21.4%. That is mind-boggling. That is just, that's a huge jump. So that's the 2010s. Okay, so let's look at 2000 to 2010. So from 2000 to 2010, the consumer price increase was 28.4%. 28.4%. The 1990s, let's look at the 1990s. So in the 1990s, the consumer price increase was, I want to say 38.4%. So though these, when you look at the 90s, when you look at 2000 to 2010, those numbers were a little bit more. And then if you get down to the 2010 to 2020, that was 18.9%. But if you look at the median of those, that falls right in the same place as that 21.4%. So what it took 10 years to increase in price, it only took 4 to do it now currently. Guys, that is scary. 21.4% in 4 years. We have got to get these numbers under control. And we got to do it quickly. I don't care who gets in office. I don't care who you're voting for. I don't care what the situation is. But if we don't get these inflation numbers under control, we are going to be in big trouble, in my opinion. And I don't think a lot's being said. I don't think a lot's being focused on with it, because it could be a very scary situation to really bring out the whole truth about it. But we've got to keep these things in mind. We've got to keep our eyes open, and we've got to be vigilant. So these are just some things to look at. So I just wanted to give you my thoughts on those. Hopefully it helps you out in some way, form, or fashion. As we go down the road, we'll get into more things maybe that you can do. I'm not going to give you financial advice. I'm not going to tell you exactly where to put your money at. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to go up a certain ROI or a percentage. But what I will do is just try to equip you guys with some information that's going to be very helpful going forward in the future. I think we're going to need to hear this. I think we're going to need to be aware of what's going on. And I think we're going to have to focus on other things sometimes to make sure that we are well equipped to function in the future and well equipped to tackle any problem that may arise in the future. But in order to do that, you have to know some things. In order to do that, you have to make some sacrifice and be able to do your own research. All right, guys. I appreciate your time here tonight. Thank you. I think this has been great. I know I rambled on a little bit too long, so please forgive me. But I appreciate you taking your time out with me tonight. And guys, remember, always, always, always stay vigilant.
On the brink of a
Thank you.
kingdom come, no turning back to the way things used to be. Currently